Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community. The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It with your host, B.J. Williams.
We have a great show for you today. The famous Billie will be talking about her newest book, and we also have a new young Oklahoma author as well. But first, coming up, Susie Beasley will be talking with Joyce McCauley Johnson about one of the books she really enjoyed.
Joyce, tell us a little bit about No More Tears by Shelby Lewis, an Oklahoma writer.
Miranda Evans is a professional artist. She has her own art gallery,
Right.
and she's married to a psychiatrist, and he has a mistress, and the mistress is pregnant by him,
Right.
and he asks her to move out of the home so that he can move the mistress in with his son, as he called it.
Right. So this sets up the characters for conflict.
Yes, Miranda couldn't understand why her husband was treating her like this, because she tried to make him as happy as she could. But he wanted her to be a different type of wife than what she was. He wanted a stay-at-home wife.
But she's a professional artist. with
She's
her
a
own art
professional
gallery.
artist, and she didn't dress like he wanted her to dress. She liked wearing blue jeans and T-shirts.
Well, she's an artist. She gets paint all over. So
Uh-huh.
how does the husband, the mistress, the wife, how do they...
What
look at
happens is Miranda packs up her bag and she leaves the house. She doesn't take anything but just necessities.
Right.
You know, she probably had enough clothes to last her overnight. And she leaves Tulsa and she ends up on the outskirts of Guthrie, kind of out in the country.
Right.
And I guess she just gave up on life.
Right.
And she was laying on the ground. And this rancher comes up. He's a horseman. His name is Brody Campbell.
Right.
And he sees this body laying there, and he goes up to her because he thinks she's dead.
Right.
And then he finds out that she's still breathing. He loads her up, puts her on his horse, and takes her to his house.
And that sounds like something from a Western, but this is a contemporary novel.
Yeah.
So we have all these aspects of betrayal and moving and trying to move on and
Yeah.
giving up on life. What drew you to this book? What made you want to read No More Tears?
The writing, it was so clear. And I could understand what she was talking about,
So
you know. And it was taking me somewhere. It looks like it might be just a true romance, but it is a romance.
It's romance, but it does have
But
other...
it has a plot to it.
Well, the elements that we know about, set in Oklahoma, Oklahoma writer, really good fiction. Joyce, I appreciate you sharing with us No More Tears by Shelby Lewis from Guthrie, Oklahoma. This book is available at your local library and your local bookstore. We'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm Donna Morris, Executive Director of your Metropolitan Library System. You know, experts tell us it's never too early to begin reading to a child. If you spend just 20 minutes a day reading to a child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're helping that child to prepare to learn how to read. Visit us at the Metropolitan Library System and let us help you select just the right books for you and your family. And be sure and visit our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
With me now is a young Oklahoma author. He's here to tell us about his first book, Sean Chandler, and his book is Ebony Marshall, which is about Indian Territory here in what is now Oklahoma. And so, Sean, what inspired you to write about Indian Territory?
I used to read Westerns ever since I was about 9 years old, and every book that I ever read, it never had an African American as a main character. And so I continued to read, and I started reading some nonfiction books as I got older that talked about African American deputy marshals in Indian Territory and other things that I didn't have any knowledge of. And so with this knowledge, I kind of started putting together this book, Ebony Marshall.
Yeah, I think there was a period when really African Americans and Latinos were sort of written out of the Old West, when actually they were major players in all of it. So is your main character, this deputy sheriff, is he based on anyone in particular?
I've kind of based him loosely on a deputy marshal that served, and his name was Bass Reeves. And I think he started in 1875, and he was known as one of the more dangerous deputy marshals of that time. So he's based loosely on his characteristics.
Now, Indian Territory was theoretically sovereign territory, but there was a judge, a federal judge in Fort Smith, wasn't it? And he had to send federal marshals in occasionally because this was pretty much a haven for outlaws. They'd go out and, well, they did anything they wanted in Indian Territory, but they also went into Arkansas and the other states and did very bad things. So did you read Westerns and so on, but did you have to do research for this?
Yeah, I did. I ended up going to the Oklahoma Historical Society, and I got some research material there. And also, there's a lot of nonfiction books about Indian Territory that like the judge is Judge Parker that you're talking about. I read some of the information behind him. There was a book called Black West where it talked about some of the African American figures that were here during that time. So a lot of the research I did was based off of those books and the information I gathered from there.
Now, Tyler has a secret that has come back to haunt him, which is kind of the plot line of this, is that he's out doing a good job as a marshal, but there's something, he was a slave, and he actually escaped and served in the Union Army, but this is kind of background for the action, isn't it?
Yes. The story is basically he's escaped from slavery. He's lived a pretty hard life. He comes to Indian Territory. He's been made into deputy marshal, and while he's there, he's trying to find cattle rustlers that have been there, that have been stealing cattle. And the story follows him as he's doing that. He finds out one of his best friends has been missing for a great length of time, so he kind of changes what he wants to do, and he goes in that direction trying to find his friend. And there's a kind of like a second story that starts where this other character, he's been kind of dwelling on things that have happened in his past, and a lot of it is dealt with Tyler Musler. And so these two characters come together in Indian Territory, and it's kind of like just an explosion.
We don't want to share the secret that people are going to have to read the book, aren't they? Now, this is a self-published book. Why did you decide to go that route?
Part of it was just the time. A lot of material I read said it might take up to 18 months to do the traditional route, and just for the control of it also. I just wanted to have an input in it from beginning to end. I did the cover, I did everything associated with it. I had some kind of input into it, and I kind of liked that part about it.
Now, how would somebody go about getting a copy of your book?
I have a website set up. It's called ebonymarshall.com, and they can go there and order one, or they can hopefully back order it from any bookstore.
But the website does provide a little bit of information about the book. Let's say that again. It's www.ebonymarshall.com, and that's where people can find out about it. Are you working on another book?
Yes, right now I'm almost completed. It's going to be called Ebony Marshall Bitter Harvest. So hopefully I'll have that out sometime next year. And I plan to try to put out one book a year.
Okay. So you've got more bad things in store for Deputy Sheriff
Yes.
Metzler, huh? You're not giving the man any rest at all, are you?
No, I'm not.
So, well, I hope that you come back next year when you've got the Deputy Sheriff in action again and tell us more about the next book.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Coming up next, we have Kids Corner, and Kelly Rhea will be talking with Heidi Johnson about some books for our very youngest people.
Hi, with us today is Heidi Johnson. She's from the Tech Processing Department of the Metropolitan Library System. She loves children's books, so we're really glad that you're here today.
Well, thank you, Kelly. I brought a couple of brand new children's books with me. They're pretty much for small children, to the ones that just start reading or that still have stories read to them by their parents or by friends or whoever. The first one is called You Can't Rush a Cat, and it is the most adorable kitty that the story is about. This little girl visits her grandfather, who lives by himself and very often is lonely and would like some more companionship, and they discover this little feral kitten and are trying to entice her to come inside and spend some time with them.
That takes a lot of patience.
It takes a lot of patience, but as she tells her grandpa, you can't rush a cat. So you have to use psychology on them and make them think they want to come to you. And throughout the book, you'll see, a paw appearing somewhere, or the tail of the kitty cat.
To really entice the reader to stay involved.
Exactly, and as we come to the end of the story, the little kitten actually does come out. And I won't talk too much about how the story ends, but it's a very happy ending.
Beautiful. And tell me about the illustrations.
The illustrations are just very adorable. They have a lot of beautiful nature depictions, beautiful colors, really draw you into the story. And
Naturalistic kind of pictures, I noticed.
right, and also there's this very cute illustration of the refrigerator. It has all of these little kitty cat Post-it notes on the refrigerator.
Down low where the kitties can see them?
Where the kitties can see them and close to the food bowl. So it's just very adorable. And hopefully everybody will turn the page along with the story and seeing what happens with the little kitty cat at the very end.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. You Can't Rush a Cat. I'll have to look for that. Tell me about the second book that you brought.
The second book that I brought is called Our Nest.
Pretty articulate.
And it is in a story in rhyme. And it starts out with you comfortable in your own bed, enfolded in the arms of your loving parent, and talks about that this is your nest at home. And then it talks about various other nests. It talks about a kitten that made a nest in a laundry basket, or a little mouse that found a home underneath a pot, overturned pot somewhere. And from there, it always takes a larger view. It goes on to the backyard, and there it shows what creatures live in what nest where.
Oh, it sounds delightful.
It
Can't
is.
tell us any more yet. We want everyone to read these. It's called You Can't Rush a Cat was the first book. It's by Bradford. And the second one is called Our Nest, and it's by Lindbergh. So look for these at your local library or your favorite bookstore.
Coming up next, we have Byron Price, who is director of the Charles Russell Center at the University of Oklahoma. M.J. Vandeventer of the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum will be talking with him about one of his favorite books.
Byron, so nice to have you back on Read About It.
Well, always glad to be with you, MJ.
Thank you. And you're reading about William S. Hart, who was certainly a colorful character in the West.
Well, he was. He was always liked to cast himself as a Westerner, although he was born in Newburgh, New York. His father was a flour miller and traveled around widely and dragged his family all over the country and ended up mostly in the Midwest, and did get out into Kansas and Nebraska, and Hart always used those experiences and exaggerated them really in talking to people later about his westernness, but as an early Western film star, he was the very first to try to project an authentic view of the American cowboy.
Even though he sort of fudged a bit, didn't he, on his Western roots?
Well, he did, but he was the first to really bring authentic costuming and authentic, as he interpreted, action into Western films, which had sort of been caricature before that, and then he was between that cowboy hero and the flashy Tom Mix style, that tailored look that came on later.
Really, wasn't there sort of a morality theme to many of the movies that he made?
His great character was the bad man who turns good in the end, and he was very taken by his Victorian morality and tried to evoke that in all of his films. He evoked it in his personal life too, and he wasn't a very successful person in establishing relationships. He had a couple of messy divorces, a son that he never really got to know, and wrote him out of his will, and there were a lot of things that were so it's an interesting and juicy book from that perspective.
And actually, you really didn't care for this book.
Not so much. I expected more out of the character, and the author did a good job of delineating the character. And the best parts of the book, to me, were those that talked about the way early Hollywood worked, and how the Western character developed, and how Hart brought his Shakespearean acting tradition to that. And if you look at those old films, he's really pretty hammy in the way he...
And Harry Carey was really very instrumental in defining the character for the author, isn't that true?
Well, Harry Carey was one of the few folks left that had actually been around at the time that William S. Hart was making films, and Hart used to come out to Carey's father's ranch. And he had a chance to observe him close up. Plus, he heard his folks talk about him quite a lot, and they were very opinionated.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and even though it's not your favorite book, you still would recommend it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a good read.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here.
Coming up next is my talk with Billie Letts. She was in town a couple of weeks ago to tell us about her latest book. She first appeared on the scene with a book that was selected by Oprah Winfrey as part of her Oprah Book Club. It went on to be made into a movie, Where the Heart Is. She has also won an Oklahoma Book Award, and The Honk and Holler Opening Soon, which was her second book, has been selected by Oklahoma Reads Oklahoma as the first book for all Oklahomans to read this fall and talk about. But she's here to tell us about her latest book, Shoot the Moon. Billie, Shoot the Moon is an absolutely beautiful novel. What inspired you to write about small-town Oklahoma again?
That's the territory I always write about. I think I'm stuck in small-town Oklahoma, but I like being there. I like the characters. And in small towns, I think we're privy to more that's going on around us. In cities, we're less aware of it. So it gives me, as a writer, the opportunity to set a story in a place where locals come together, and I like that. It helps me.
Well, that opening prologue that you wrote, I felt like small-town Oklahoma was just sort of slowly settling around me. I wasn't sure where we were going with the story, but I felt like I knew a lot of the characters in those first couple of pages, and then you sort of threw everybody off the deep end, really, with your story, which is a bit of a change from what you usually write.
It's a big change, PJ. I ended up writing a mystery, and I never intended to do that. I wrote myself into a brick wall, I guess. My character was going to discover at age 27, on the death of his father, that he was adopted. So he decided to go to this small town in Oklahoma, hoping his mother still lived there, taking that chance. And he intended only to watch her from afar, talk to some of the townspeople to find out who she was, what she was, and then to confront her. But it just didn't offer any surprises for me that way. So that's why I decided to make a murder and an abduction at the heart of his quest.
Well, I think, I'm assuming, not being adopted myself, but I am assuming this was certainly his immediate assumption, was that his mother had given him away, that she had abandoned him, and a kindly couple had sort of rescued him.
Right.
And so he came to town with a major chip on his shoulder, which...
He did, and I didn't like him much. He came from Beverly Hills, wealthy family, good education, travel, and he's really a fish out of water in this little town. He doesn't like this culture at all and feels very superior. So I didn't like him, and I knew in the course of this story I was going to have to soften his rough edges by exposing him to this culture and the people that he would meet. But after I'd created him as this unlikable character, I backed away from the book for a long time because I just disliked him so much.
Well, that is interesting. I have heard people talk about characters that get away from them, but this is the first time I've heard, A, I didn't like the character, and B, the plot just ran away.
It did. All my books, well, my two other books, all my books, I don't have that many, but my first two were character-driven. And in this book, once I introduced the fact that his mother was murdered and he was abducted at that time, I've created a novel that's almost plot-driven, if you'll understand that. So I did a lot of rewriting and developed character more in my second draft.
Now, you say you didn't like the character. Was he based on anybody other than those wackos that live in California?
He is based on somebody I know, yes. And I hope the person doesn't recognize himself in the character.
After what you said, Billie, I hope so too. Yeah, he does. He gets really lucky though in his search because he meets the local owner of the. I love the original name. The woman started out with her pool hall and tea room.
Yes.
I thought it was unfortunate she had to shorten it in order to keep the Domino Boys.
Yeah. Well, there are men who play Moon in most old Oklahoma pool halls. I don't think you'll find that in new pool halls and bars, but they still exist in small towns. And the domino players, the 4 Domino Boys, I call them, and I think the youngest is almost 70. They gave me an opportunity to incorporate humor and some lightness into this story, which tends to be fairly dark. So I had to develop humor when I could. And generally I go over the top with humor, so I have to be pulled back from it by my editor.
Well, I thought the novel was a little bit dark, but it was also something that was exploring human emotions and how we deal with them, and really human nature. How we deal with what we're given. I was impressed with the young man on his search. I could kind of understand where he was coming from. He was at a loss, really, and angry. He met up with Teve, the pool room owner, and her daughter, Ivy, who was also at a major crossroads, and both of them, in a way, had come home to find out what to do with the rest of their lives.
Right. Ivy was fun to write. I loved writing the Domino Boys, the dialogue for them. And I liked the character Ivy from the beginning. I liked her independence and her attitude with her mother. They're a wonderful mother-daughter team, though they have their differences, certainly. And you're right, Ivy's facing a crisis. She has a decision to make. So that added another layer of tension, I think, to the story.
Well, in the end, she has a couple of decisions to make. I mean, she comes home, she's pregnant, and as
she's not married.
Not married, and as she said, she doesn't deal well with commitment. What was it? She took up a career and dropped it, and took up a hobby and dropped it.
Moved from one to the other. But she most had to do with protecting the environment and the animals. That she does have a passion for that. And the fact that she comes home pregnant and feels she owes no explanation to anybody but her mother, and that's a little slow in coming, that explanation to her, made me like her all the more.
I really liked and enjoyed the conversation she did have when her mother finally nerved herself up to, we have to sit down and talk, Ivy. And so Ivy said, A, B, C, D, and that's it, okay?
I'm pregnant by a guy I don't like very much. I have morning sickness. I bought a book on pregnancy, so I know what to expect. And do you have any blue thread? that sort of conversation, and that appealed to me.
Yeah, a very nice relationship between the two of them.
It is, it is. And that gave me more opportunities to use the pool hall and the lunchroom. She finally called it a lunchroom, and back to lure the domino boys back. And so she's quite a help to her at that time.
Well, I wish we could talk about this more, Billie.
I do too.
People are just going to have to read the book themselves.
Oh, I hope they will.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks, BJ.
And the sun is not sunny?
Hi, my name is Jose Jimenez of your Metropolitan Library Commission. You know, most experts tell us that if you just spend 20 minutes a day reading to your child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're also preparing that child to learn how to read. Check with the experts at your Metropolitan Library for suggestions on just the right books for you and your family. And visit us at our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
It's Almanac time, and I'm always telling you you can check it out at www.metrolibrary.org, which is the website for the library system. And Doug Benton is here to tell us about some of the things we can check out.
Yeah, well, we've got a good guy and a bad guy this week.
Okay.
July 26, 1984 was the death date of the man who served as the inspiration for Psycho. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and several other lesser horror films.
Really
His name was Ed
versatile guy. Ed Gein, never
who
heard
had
of
spent
him.
30 years in a mental hospital for, criminally insane. We won't go into any details. He was a bad guy. And July 25th, 1853 was the birthday of the playwright and American theater impresario David Belasco, who wrote the plays that the operas Girl of the Golden West and Madame Butterfly are based on.
Great. Thanks very much. We'll see you again next time.